Hello, Math 2. This is factoring polynomials, part 3, all right, of 4. And this time we are going to factor quadratics again, where we have ax squared plus bx plus c. But in this case, a is not equal to 1, meaning you'll actually have a number in front of the x squared term. So when we look at it, it says here, consider the trinomial 3x squared plus 8x plus 9. Match a term in the left column with the appropriate name in the right column. So when we look at the 3x squared, that there is a quadratic term. So right away, you know it's a quadratic term when you see the variable raised to the second power. Next, right, 8x. 8x is the linear term, because anytime we have a linear term, that's just the x term. And 9 is the constant term. So what is the coefficient of the quadratic term in part A? When I look at it, what's the number in front of the x squared? Remember, the quadratic term tells me to look for x squared, and the coefficient is the number in front. So if I look at 3x squared, what is the coefficient of this term? 3. Okay, terminology plays a key role as we're going through this. So now, we have standard form of a quadratic formula is ax squared plus bx plus c, but now we know a is going to be a number, right, other than 1. So let's go through and look at this activity in a way. It says, what is the value of a in the quadratic trinomial x squared minus 10x plus 16? Well, we know the number in front of x squared is 1, so we know a is 1. If we were to factor this, we would look for the numbers that multiply to give us 16 and add up to negative 10. In this case, we know that would be negative 8, negative 2, because those multiply to give you 16, and they add to negative 10. So this would factor to x minus 8 times x minus 2. Now, check your answers. Do these produce the product in part A? Well, if I take x squared, or x minus 8 times x minus 2, x times x is x squared, x times negative 2 is minus 2x, negative 8 times x is minus 8x, negative 8 times negative 2 is plus 16, and when we combine these middle terms, we get minus 10x plus 16. That matches up with what we started with. What about the second column? What makes this a little bit more challenging? Well, in this case, what is the value of a? A is equal to 3. So what makes this complicated now is we used to, in this one over here, we knew right away the first term in each binomial had to be x, because x times x would give us that x squared. But now, whatever we put in the front here has to multiply to give me 3x squared. So I know right away that I have to have a 3x and an x, because when I multiply them, I have to get 3x squared. Now, I can't just pick random numbers that multiply to give you negative 7 and add up to negative 4. What we have to do is find, right, the numbers that multiply to give us negative 7, and then when we distribute, we get a negative 4x. What do I mean by that? If I do this, and don't write this down, if I go plus 1 here, and I go minus 7 here, when I multiply this out, 3x times x is 3x squared. 3x times negative 7 is minus 21x. 1 times x is plus 1x, and then minus 7. If I add these middle terms, do I get negative 4x? No. So what do I have to do then, right? So I have to retry it a different way. So if I go 3x minus 7, x plus 1, now if I multiply this out, 3x times x is 3x squared. 3x times 1 is plus 3x. Negative 7 times x is negative 7x. Negative 7 times 1 is minus 7. And now when you look, I get minus 4x in the middle. So what we're going to talk about now is how do we factor these quadratic trinomials when a is not equal to 1. So let's take a look at quadratics in general using the box method like we did in the last section. So if I go 2x minus 3 up here, and I go x plus 5 down here, what I want you to know is when we multiply the first, we know we get the 2x squared. But then when we go the 2x times 5x, 2x times 5, I get 10x. And when I multiply the inners, right? So when I multiply the outers, I get 10x. When I multiply the inners, I get negative 3x. And then right away, negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. So here, I will get 2x squared. That's going to give me plus 7x minus 15. So when I look at the next one, I know right away if I'm trying to factor this, right? They want us to find these missing values. So if we take a look at that, right, you have 5x, but now we have to find numbers that multiply to give us 16, but then eventually will give us this negative 42x when we distribute everything. So right away, we know we have to start off with 5x and x because 5x times x will give us 5x squared. Right? What's nice about this is 5 is prime. There's no other numbers that multiply to give me 5. But I have to try different scenarios here. So I know if this is positive and the middle term is negative, I know both of them have to be minus signs. Now, I'm going to just go ahead and try 5x minus 8, x minus 2. Because I know right away that negative 8 times negative 2 will give me my 16. But what I have to do is check that middle term. So what is negative 8 times x going to give me? Negative 8x. 5x times negative 2x is negative 10x. That gives me negative 18x. That will not work. So let me try something else. Let's flip it. Let's go minus 8 here and minus 2 here. Right? So now that would give me negative 40x. And then this would give me negative 2x. When I combine them, I get negative 42x. So this factors out to be 5x minus 2, and then x minus 8. Now, how can I check this right away? I know 5x and x give me 5x squared. I know negative 2 and negative 8 give me 16. So now I have to check the outers, which is negative 40x, the inners, which is negative 2x. That combines to give me negative 42x. And that is how it factors. 5x minus 2, x minus 8. So over here, when we look at this, I know right away the first term is going to be 3x and x because that would give me my 3x squared. Good. Now what I have to do is find the factors of negative 3. So if I put minus 3 up here and positive 1 down here, how does this work for me? Well, negative 3 times x is negative 3x, right? And then I have 1 times 3x is 3x. Is that going to add up to 8x? No. So that will not work. So let's try this. Minus 1 here plus 3 here. Does this work? 3 times x is 3x. 3 times negative 1, negative 3x. Do these add up to 8x? Nope. So now we have to move on again. Let's go again with plus 3 here and minus 1 here. 3x times 3 is going to give me 9x. Negative 1 times x is negative 1x. Does that add up to 8x? Yes. Is negative 1 times 3 negative 3? Yep. So this factors out to be 3x minus 1 times x plus 3. So let's take a look at the next one, right? Right away we know that to get 2x squared, I have to have 2x and x. But now I have to find and place the factors of negative 12 in here, right? And then I kind of have to check the inners and the outers to see which one would work. So let's just start off with negative 3 times 4. Let's check the outers. Oh, excuse me. Check the outers. It's going to give me 8x minus 3x. Is that going to give me 5x? It does. So I know this factors out to be 2x minus 3 times x plus 4. Okay. Now, hypothetically, if I did it differently and I say I went plus 3 minus 4. If I check this, the outers, that would give me negative 8x plus 3x. That's going to give me negative 5x. That wouldn't work. So now I'd have to play around with this. That's the trial and error method. Okay? Or guess and check. So as we move along, what we're going to do is we're going to use a method called the AC method. So the first thing we're going to do, right, is multiply A times C, right? And then we're going to find the numbers that, or factors that multiply to equal AC and add up to B. So in this case, right away we know 8 times negative 3 is going to be negative 24. So we need to find the numbers that multiply to give me negative 24 and add up to equal B, which is 10. So in this case, right, I look at it and I say, okay, if I did 8 times negative 3, that'd be negative 24, but 8 plus negative 3 is not going to give me 10. They don't work. So I'm going to start with 12 and negative 2. Is 12 plus negative 2 going to give me 10? Yes. These are my factors. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to split the middle term. And I'm going to rewrite this polynomial. So I'm going to see this is a 12x and a negative 2x. So what I'm going to do is rewrite that polynomial as 8x squared plus 12x minus 2x minus 3. And if you look, if I were to combine those, I would get that 10x there. Now, what I do next is I'm going to group the first two terms and the second two terms and factor out the GCF. So I'm going to go ahead, group these two terms. So right away the GCF here, greatest common factor between 8 and 12 is 4. X squared and x is x. If I divide each of these by 4x, I'm going to get 2x plus 3. The next one, there's no common factor between 2 and 3, but if this first term is negative, I'm going to factor out a negative 1. When I divide each of these by negative 1, I get 2x. Negative 3 divided by negative 1 is plus 3. Now if you notice, we have these in common. So what I'm going to do is pull out the 2x plus 3. That wipes those out. And what do I have left over here? 4x minus 1. So this factors out to be 2x plus 3 times 4x minus 1. Now I can check my work. 2x times 4x is 8x squared. 2x times negative 1 is negative 2x. Plus 12x gives me 10x. 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. So I know right away that I factored this correctly. So let's try the next one with this.